Okay, so this video is to show you how to use the OBS Studio to capture analog signals using specialized equipment on a PC. So in this particular instance, we have a Sony Handycam from 2000 that plays 8 and high 8 analog tapes, and those tapes are 640 by 480 resolution at 30 frames per second, and that tape is outputted via composite ports, the famous yellow, white, and red ports, yellow for video, white and red for audio. And that goes to an upscaler, which converts it to 720p. The upscaler itself can do 720p or 1080p, but we found that the 1080p caused issues, so we're going to be in 720p, and it's also going to transmit at 60 frames per second. That signal travels via HDMI to a video capture device, which is going to then send that to the PC itself as an audio-video signal over USB. So once we have all that set up, which has already been pre-created, we're going to go ahead and make sure our settings are correct. Now, most of these settings are out of box. When I first installed this program, it gave me the option to pick how I wanted this set up, and I chose the option for pick recording over streaming as opposed to streaming over recording. And so whatever those default settings are generally here, except for what I'm about to show you. So I changed the output from MKV to MP4, and that's just to avoid having to remux the recordings and edit them into an MP4 format. There is a risk in the event that the recording fails for whatever reason that you have to start it over, but generally it's not really an issue. Video, I also made sure my base and output were at 1280 by 720 and 1280 by 720. Through experimentation, again, we just found that that was the best ratio to have. Kept the 60 frames per second because even though the source material is 30 frames per second, the smoothness of the analog signal gets lost when it is turned to a digital signal at 30 frames per second. So by keeping that 60 frames per second, it keeps that smooth feeling. Now you'll notice that the ratio is 16 by 9, whereas 640 by 480 is actually a 4 by 3 resolution, and what I'm going to show you is how to get that placed on OBS for recording purposes. I'm going to start with the audio. So I'm going to go ahead and add my audio source by saying audio input capture. Now, the audio input capture device and the video input capture device are the same device, but for whatever reason, the software wants them treated differently or separately. So we're going to go ahead and say OK, and then we're going to choose microphone USB 3.0 HD audio capture. And if you're running into synchronous issues, say use device timestamps, I'm going to just turn that on by default, and I'm going to press OK. Now I'm going to want to make sure that all of my input sources are muted except for the audio input capture. So we're going to turn off desktop audio, we're going to turn off the mic, and if I want to listen to what's playing while I'm recording it, I'm going to hit the settings, and I'm going to go to advanced audio properties, and then I'm going to say for the audio input capture, monitor and output. If you do monitor only, you can hear it, but when you're recording, it won't record it. So you want to click monitor and output, and I'm going to hit close. And then I'm going to go ahead and add my video capture device. I'm going to make the source visible so I can show you. And again, we're going to choose the device USB 3.0 HD video capture. I kept everything default. Notice that it does have an audio channel, but that audio channel doesn't work. So the first thing we're going to do after we add it is I'm going to also disable that audio. Okay, now going back to the video. Remember the 720p, which is for modern devices, that's a 16 by 9 ratio, whereas the source is 4 by 3. So in order to scale it up without getting that stretching effect, what we're going to have to do is transform this. So I'm going to start by going to my transform, and I'm going to say edit transform. So all I did was right click the canvas with this object selected, and I'm going to transform it. And for me, it's easier if I just say that my position alignment is going to be center. So what that's saying is this pixel 0, 0 is the center of this image. And then I'm going to drag that over, and I'm going to lock it so that it's back center, center. So that means position 640 by 360 is the dead center of the screen. Okay. Then the last thing I need to change is this, and I just need to make this 960. And then the settings that you have here are correct. You can see that I have 2 vertical black bars, and then I have a nice 4:3 issue. This blue screen is actually the feed from the camera itself. Either it's playing but the footage is blank, or it's not playing and it's in a pause state or a stop state and it's blue. And this is exactly what you're going to be looking at when the video is not playing. Anyway, so these are the settings that you would want to see. You can manually type these in if you don't want to drag stuff around. Once you're ready to record, go ahead and say start recording. And then you'll notice this light turns red. And then it'll be recording, and then it'll show the CPU usage. I would recommend keeping all non-vital programs closed. That way, any jitter that may occur during the recording process is minimized, and it's showing your frames per second. Once you've actually reached a point where you're done recording, go ahead and hit stop. And then it will go ahead and process it. Now, if it's a long video, it's going to take longer to process. It'll say stopping recording for a while. But once it's finished, if you go to your videos folder, it'll be right there with the current timestamp, and that will play in any player. And that's all there is to it. If you have any questions, let me know.